Are you familiar with FBI Special Agents Kyle Seraphin?
I'm familiar with the name.
Is that yes?
I'm familiar with the name. Familiar with the name. Familiar with the name.
Let's bring in Kyle Seraphin. He's the FBI whistleblower who helped expose government censorship of our First Amendment rights.
Now, we only have this memo because a recently suspended FBI agent called Kyle Seraphin brought it to the public. And we're grateful that he did. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
He's the host of something that strangely is called the Kyle Seraphin Show.
Kyle Seraphin, I can't thank you enough for speaking out. I knew you guys were out there, and I knew it was just a matter of time, but you got a lot of guts putting your face and your name to this. You're doing a service on behalf of the American people, and from the bottom of my cracked and broken heart sometimes, thank you very much.
Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Tuesday. It is December the 17th. Man, we are really getting along. This year is almost over, and we are going to be talking about, I think, probably the most important topic that keeps coming up in the news cycle, but also in our experience and in the social atmosphere that exists in America right now. It's this failure of men and failure of women to embrace the value of the feminine. We don't embrace it in a way that it is designed to be embraced. And so we have this horrible mismatch of values. And female empowerment actually means taking away the ability of women to be women and castrating the ability of men to be men. So today we're going to talk about fading grace. That's the piece of it. And it occurred to me before I even went live that one of the biggest examples, the actual example that we're supposed to look to, is a Christmas example. That Mary, the mother of Jesus, did the thing that women do. She didn't do something exceptional in many ways. She had a baby, which many of you listening have had, or many of you have witnessed and participated in. If you're a man who's supported a woman who's had a baby, this is not like an uncommon experience in human existence. And so she did this incredibly powerful thing by having a child. And the child did the thing that men are supposed to do, sacrifice physically. Jesus did it at a level that no one else has. That's the whole point. But we've lost this focus in America. We've lost this ability to see innate and simple truth. That men must be men, women must be women, not because it sounds good, not because it's biologically accurate, but because this is the way that it was set up. That a woman did the thing that a woman is supposed to do. Yes, I understand the virginal birth. I understand the nature of that being exceptional. But the physical acts that were done, men sacrificing for others, women going through the quiet burden of raising children, only to see them go in the world and do the thing that they're supposed to do. It is exceptional in so much it is common. Pretty amazing. That's where we're going to go today. This is obviously in the wake of another mass shooting that happened. It's actually a smaller mass shooting than many have been. I want to talk about mass shootings. I want to talk about that aspect of femininity, why we have female shooters in this last year or two that are not common. So we'll talk about that. I'm going to save you a lot of concern because the government has come out and addressed the drones. So we're good to go. More attacks on Trump's cabinet. We're going to get into that as well. And we're going to talk about We're going to talk about fake media in so much as that fake media also represents the problem we're talking about with masculinity and femininity. So we've got some of that as well. A little bit of all the things that we always touch on here. All right, before we do, we're going to go ahead and say thanks to some of our sponsors. We're going to say thanks to the folks over at My Patriot Supply, and you guys can go to preparelikekyle.com in order to do that. Folks, we are in crunch time. There's a new administration about to be sworn in, but as great as that is, that also means that our enemies have days left to stir up trouble. It could mean a cyber attack, an invasion, God forbid, a nuclear strike, as many people were thinking about in New Jersey. So until the longtime bureaucrats are out of Washington, we don't take any chances here in this house. That's why we have emergency food from My Patriot Supply. Right now, they are offering a $100 off 3-month emergency food kit. This is the one that we actually have in the Seraphin house times 2. It's got 2,000 calories per day that will last you for 3 whole months. It's plenty to get you through prolonged emergencies and give you a footing above the others. Their food lasts for up to 25 years, so you don't have to use it right away. They come in rugged, waterproof buckets that are easily stackable like they are in the Seraphin closet. Go to preparelikekyle.com right now. Order your own 3-month emergency food kit. It's an investment in your future, folks. If you guys don't have it, we have it because our safety, our security, our capabilities to operate are more important than a couple of dollars. Go ahead and go to preparelikekyle.com. Get your own 3-month emergency food kit right now. Preparelikekyle.com. Let's dive into this topic. So when I tell you that I want to do this justice, I'm going to try to give the second half of the show to that major issue of fading grace. But the beginning of it, we're going to start with the lies, the classic lies, because we've been talking about a lot of these things, and one of them is a drone situation. It's a drone update. I got a funny story. There are 2 hilarious stories to me as I woke up this morning and I'm sitting there in the dark reading the news of the day. These both came from ABC. This one is called Drone Update, No National Security Risk Found After 5,000 tips went to the FBI and other federal agencies. The federal investigators have supported local officials looking into at least 100 leads personally. Thousands of drone sightings have been reported over the last month in northeastern states, and they don't appear to be anything anomalous, so saith our national security organizations. They don't present a national security threat or a threat to the public safety. And we're going, but don't they? Over 5,000 tips were made in just a few weeks. The FBI was getting them in New Jersey and other states, said the statement, which was released between Homeland Security, the FBI, the FAA, and the DOD. We've played you a little bit of that last time. What I want to do is actually read the somewhat funny press release, and then I'm going to show you why they're actually, even though I think they're lying to us about a lot of things, they're probably correct in that it's not a national security risk because they know what's going on, even if they claim not to. And I've got some evidence of that, which was the second story that we'll cover. So stand by for that. Let's go straight to the press release. Wait, this is a different press release. This is warning people in New Jersey to stop pointing laser pointers or laser aiming devices at manned aircraft or attempting to shoot down UAS or unmanned aerial surveillance vehicles. So stop shooting at the drones, please. Whether it be with airsoft or with your bottle rockets, the Newark State Police and the New Jersey State Police and the Newark FBI are very concerned. They want to warn you that there's been an increase in laser hits to pilots of manned aircraft because people are stupid and they have no idea what they're seeing in the sky. That is a big piece of it. The unmanned aerial systems or unmanned aircraft systems, UAS, are probably the targets of what people are trying to shine their lasers at, and they're actually hitting manned aircraft. This is a big deal, by the way, for whatever it's worth. I actually arrested a guy over this once. It was at President Trump's inauguration. He probably was an Antifa dude, but he had a big laser pointer and he was pointing it at Eagle One, which was the Park Police helicopter. Don't shine laser pointers at the helicopters. What happens is it hits the windshield, which is a specific type of glass, and that glass allows the laser to basically fill up and blind the pilot in a very different way. It refracts differently, especially those that are in sort of the curved aircraft glass of a helicopter. It's a felony. So that's the best reason not to do it. There are abilities to go back and track who is doing it. There are some reverse capabilities. They will call in, the pilots will often call in GPS. They'll call in the lat long of where they were, and they can actually reverse triangulate it based on the rough area. So you don't want to be the person that gets caught. A lot of people get away with it, but it's a felony. It's punishable by up to 5 years. So don't be that person. Don't endanger a bunch of people in the air. There are loved ones that are flying right now. They might be your loved ones. They might be someone else's. Just don't do that. But it does kind of tell us a little bit about their ability to kind of see these things. And here it is. This is the statement released by DHS, FBI, FAA, and DOD, all the relevant stakeholders. Somebody got together and got their Christmas bonus by releasing a joint statement on the ongoing response to reported drone sightings. This is the official statement. I've got most of it. I'm going to read most of it. There are more than 1 million drones that are lawfully registered with the FAA in the United States, and there are thousands of commercial and hobbyist and law enforcement drones that are lawfully in the sky at any given time of the day. The technological landscape is evolving, and we expect this number to increase over time. The FBI has received more than 5,000 tips, which is really funny because they're just blasting these into West Virginia, and some poor idiot has to answer the phone. The federal government is supporting state and local officials investigating those reports consistent with each of our unique missions and authorities. We are quickly working to prioritize and follow down the leads we have given the advanced detection technology in the region. We have sent trained visual observers. They have done the thing they're supposed to do, which is why they're probably not worried, because they probably already know what's going on there, even if they're not telling us. Having closely examined the technical data from tips and concerned citizens, we assessed that the sightings to include a combination of lawful commercial aircraft, hobbyist drones, and law enforcement drones, as well as manned fixed-wing aircraft, helicopters, and stars mistakenly reported as drones. We have not identified anything anomalous. We do not assess the activity to present a national security or public safety risk. I think that's probably complete nonsense. I'm certain that this is part cover story. There is clearly something that is happening because the number of sightings has gone up dramatically in a short period of time. When you have that kind of a spike, something is happening. But what it does tell us is, yeah, they know, and they're not worried. They're trying to dissuade you in the way that they know how to do it, the way that they can do it lawfully, or the way that they're allowed to actually discuss it, because they're not allowed to tell you what's going on. Here's my proof that they have the ability to actually interdict and intercede on behalf of the American people if there was actually a problem that is outside of the U.S. and they thought there was something going on. And it looks like this. Also from ABC. On the exact same morning, 2 men arrested for hazardous drone operation near the Boston airport. Oh. They can do it if they want to. They can go find the people that did it. Why? Because they have radar systems. They have passive interception. They have signals intelligence capabilities to gather. They can actually track back the RF. There's things called WID trucks and other things that'll track cell phones and transmitters that are going to give you information and move the command and control radio frequency into those things that are flying around. For sure. They've got targeted EMPs. Actually, Sean Ryan's got kind of a neat video out with the founder of Palantir, or at least one of the guys at Palantir, which we'll touch on later on. They can do it if they want. They can go stop these things. They could shoot them all out of the sky. They could all drop them out, but they're allowed to be there. They're not going to tell us why. But it doesn't make me concerned, and I don't think it's aliens. 2 men were arrested after allegedly flying a drone dangerously close to Logan International Airport. Robert Duffy and Jeremy Follick were arrested by members of the Boston Police Harbor Patrol Unit at approximately 10:22 on Saturday night. A third subject fled the scene in a boat and has not been caught, by the way. Fleeing in a boat. The old rule in special operations was if you ever find yourself in a tough spot with the police, head to the water, go for a swim, go deep into the water, and most police officers will not be able to follow you. That was the old rule that we got. I got that when I was at Keesler Air Force Base, and I actually had some friends who got in some fight at the Beau Rivage. For those of you who know anything about Mississippi, they got into stupid fights, and then they would jump off the balcony and run on down the sand and get into the water, and then they would swim laterally while they were a couple hundred yards off from shore, and they would run on back to the barracks on foot. They'd show up covered in seaweed and salt water, looking like drunken idiots, and they were very proud of themselves for evading capture by like a security guard. But it is a pretty good rule. Most cops will not follow you, and following you in a boat is actually pretty difficult to do anyway, especially if you're busy trying to arrest the other 2 idiots that didn't get in the boat on time and were trying to fly their drones. So there you go. It has happened. Leveraging advanced technology, here you go, officials were able to identify its exact location, the altitude, and flight history of the unmanned aircraft systems that were flying around 4:30. So these guys were out on the boat, it looks like, or they were near the boat, they were on the water, and Logan backs up to the water right next to Boston Harbor. Sure enough, they got him. Okay? And that's what tells me everything I need to know about whether or not these people can be caught. It's not particularly difficult. We'll pivot over to another story that continues to go onward. Oh, I think there was one more statement. Oh, that's the New Jersey statement. Yeah. So the other thing that keeps developing, in addition to this drone thing, the story, the media lost focus for just a few minutes. They went away from it because they got excited about drones and aliens and federal lies. But they cannot get over attacking Donald Trump's cabinet. So it's kind of this mixed bag of these like mediocre hit pieces rolling out. I'm trying to decide what I'm going to do first. I guess we'll run the Cash one first. Here's a Cash story. This came out in Politico. I actually shared this with Cash because I thought it was funny. He's like, what does this idiot have to say? This idiot's name is Ankush Kardori. Let me say that correctly. And Kardori, I'm going to read it to you. It's relevant to the story. Kardori is a senior writer for Politico, and he's a senior writer for Politico and a former federal prosecutor at the DOJ, which is to say that he was an assistant United States attorney. That is the same thing that Cash did at DOJ for a while. He has worked in the private sector, in the complex commercial litigation and white-collar corporate defense. The only reason why I say that is because if he's the senior writer and his experience is that he was a federal prosecutor and he says that Cash doesn't have the experience to do the job of FBI director, does he even have the job or the experience to comment on that? I mean, he's only a former federal prosecutor himself. Anyway, he says there's a big fear that Donald Trump is going to use his prosecutorial revenge tour, and it's going to be a combination of Pam Bondi, a staunch loyalist, and Kash Patel, whose only qualification, this is the ongoing hit, they really don't have much else out there. They're trying to push this narrative that he had a charity, and that was really, really bad. I want Americans to consider, especially those on the left. I want you to ask your friends that you deal with who are on the left. Are you really upset that a man decided to raise money for veterans, for law enforcement officials that were removed from their job around Christmas time, around Thanksgiving, and that he just thought that sending them money with no ask and making sure that the family wasn't, kicked out on the street, that they didn't lose their leases and their mortgages, is that really a problem for you? Because this is the ongoing hit. There have been multiple hit piece writers that have been fascinated and specifically focused in on the Fight with Cash Foundation. The Fight with Cash Foundation raised money and then gave it to people. It gave it to fallen officers. It gave it to the families of them. So this is what they want to try and hit on. But that's not what this piece is. They just basically said that he's a Trump sycophant. That's not been my experience. I'm sure that Trump and Cash see eye to eye on most of the things. That's how you get named to these kind of positions. But what would you call Merrick Garland? What would you call even Chris Wray at this point, who basically has bent over backwards to do exactly what the Biden administration has wanted and destroyed his own reputation and the FBI's reputation at the same time? What would you call Jim Comey, that walking action figure of the Biden-Harris campaign, a 6'7" middle finger to the American people, wearing like a Biden-Harris shirt? What do you call that guy? Other than sycophantic and former DOJ prosecutors. It's pretty incredible. Like, they just really dislike the fact that, and again, I just want to hone in on the racism piece of it. It's never about the actual substance of the allegations. They always get it wrong. They get the story wrong. So they just kind of like go in cursory. There's nothing in here that is factual as I read the story. So I just kept reading. It's like, oh, are you going to go and touch his bio? No, you're not. You're just going to talk about how big the FBI is. The old joke that we have, if you've ever worked inside or worked around people who are in the FBI, the real workers are always the frontline agents, the guys like Steve Friend, who are going out there and getting hundreds of arrests. And then the alternative is like the guys that didn't do any of those things. They move up in management. This is the same in police departments. This is the same in some military units as well. The people that are busy like padding their resume and properly documenting everything that they've done, they're too busy doing that to be able to actually do the job right? I mean, this is not outside of you guys' understanding. And so what I want to kind of hone in on is, the joke is that every GS-13, so that was my job when I left, I was a GS-13 FBI agent. Every single GS-13 that has any like halfway competence, because of the way that they're selected and the background and their previous experience, they could run an FBI field office. That means there are 56 people that need to be able to run the 56 or the 55 field offices now. They've consolidated them, Steve Friend told me. You need like 60 people to be able to competently run all of the field offices in the FBI and all of the branches. You don't have to be a subject matter expert. You have to have a flexible capability. And that's kind of what they hire for. So Cash has to go in and be a manager of like a couple dozen people. I did that when I was 25 at a restaurant. I had 60 employees. Fairly confident the man can handle that. 35,000 employees. Most of them probably aren't even needed. Let's just be real. There's a bunch of things called MAPAs that don't even need to be there. Anyway, ongoing hits on the cabinet. We're going to do one more of them. And I've got some inside intel that you're not going to hear anywhere else because it just came to me and nobody else as well. Let me go ahead and first kick over to my buddies over at Patriot Coolers, which I have one sitting on the desk. The coffee mug right now, the 16 ounce, is sitting right here. It's patriotcoolers.com if you guys want to pick up your own. Promo code KYLE saves you 10%, which is not bad during the holidays. And give you some other examples here. This is the major. This one's pretty sick. In fact, our winner of the giveaway from Thanksgiving bought one of these and then ended up getting some others. So here you go. And Paula S. actually got one of these, I think in OD green. And actually two of these, plus a cooler. In any case, if you guys are not checking out my friends over there, you're missing out on some really high quality products. The nicest thing about them is I'm setting them on carpet right now, which you guys know is not very stable. They have awesome lids. And if you have kids and you drop things, or you do a podcast in the morning and you might drop your cup, it's nice to know that as you drop them on the floor, they don't spill everywhere. They have really good lids. They keep improving them. Their designs are better than when I first got them, and I first started using these products in 2017 in October, when I had no interest or ever considered doing a podcast. PatriotCoolers.com, promo code KYLE. Let them know we sent you, and check out the Kyle Seraphin collection, which is in the show description. Okay, this is the next story, which I found fascinating because it was running around on Twitter. It's always the weirdest, weakest, most pathetic losers sharing it. It's like Nadine Hassan, like an MSNBC host or a guy who had to go out on his own because he was unable to basically make it, and even like nobody wanted to see what he had to say, right? This story comes from the New York Times. And this one I had to go out and dig a little bit because I wanted to know. Hexeth's guard left the army after beating a civilian during training. The guy's name is John Hasabin. He's escorted Donald Trump's pick to meetings in Capitol Hill. He's doing private security, and he left the army in 2019. So the story goes like this. Two different writers. You always know it's good news when it's two different writers. A guy named Dave Phelps, who does his job covering the military, and Sharon Lafreniere, who reports on cabinet appointments. They are going to do the hit piece here. We're done hitting on just Pete Hegseth. Now we're going to attack his security guard. And you're seeing his picture on the screen there. He's obviously the gentleman that has like the reddish beard and the slightly balding. He's a retired Green Beret. He's a former Master Sergeant, John Jacob Hasabian. I think I'm saying his name correctly. He left the military in 2019 after a training event, which witnesses said he beat a civilian role player, kicking him and punching him and leaving him hogtied in a pool of his own blood. Well, that sounds like a New York Times description, doesn't it? Hexeth's choice of a security escort who stood accused by fellow soldiers of crimes kind of tells them that they think he has really, really bad judgment. I've got some different information, and I'm going to share it with you in just 1 second here. The Army charged Hasbian with aggravated assault, reckless endangerment. Military jury found him guilty, but then they actually declared a mistrial after learning that a friend of Hasbian had been talking to a juror and trying to influence it. The Army did not retry the case. They decided to let him go. Here's what the guy's name is that made the allegations, the one that got beat up. His name was Ahmed Altamini. He's an Iraqi man, which is not stated in this piece. And he was a fighter. Not just like he was a fighter like in the role-playing scenario. Like he actually had some experience fighting, and he tried to tough guy this. And it turns out when you try to tough guy legitimate badasses who do legitimately badass things for the American people, when you try to go out there and overplay your role, anybody who's ever been in a law enforcement role that's dealt with role players that just take it too far, those people try to, muscle around. They end up getting hurt. I actually had that experience. I had this experience on Police State. We had an actual actor, so not just a role player, but an actor, playing the role of the father at breakfast. If you guys saw the movie, you know what I'm talking about. There's a father, he's praying with his kids, and then he gets up and he gets arrested by this FBI kind of like, no-knock warrant kind of deal. That's the story. Flashbang comes in, and I was the guy who put him into custody because I didn't want anyone to get hurt. And I've taken people into custody. And I threw him into basically a standing armbar and put him against the wall, and he kept fighting. And I was like, dude, I need you to not fight as hard. Make it look good, but stop physically resisting, because I am going to hold you still so that you don't get hurt. And it's going to end up breaking your arm. That's what happens if you fight against people who actually know what they're doing when they take you into custody. This is something you're not going to hear anywhere else. This is a Seraphin Show exclusive, if you will. A friend of mine served with this guy in 5th Group. And he had this to say. I've distorted the voice, so it's a little bit harder to listen to, but I've done that for the protection of those that are involved. I want you guys to know, New York Times hit pieces going after somebody who honorably retired after 22 years of service as a Special Forces guy, a Green Beret Master Sergeant. Maybe they ought to step it down and not go after heroes. And here's the take from a friend of mine that had this to say. The guy who was fighting him, the Iraqi role player, was a straight asshole. Direct quote. A little bit of language in this one. Here we go.
Yeah, dude, the guy was a straight asshole. He kept, there's a thing where role players, if they take it easy, then we don't want to hurt them. But this guy kept, fighting, getting out his restraints, was taking it way too far. So Jay just whooped his ass. Well, I wouldn't even say whoop his ass. He restrained him, forcefully. Jay, he's a badass. He taught me everything I know. the guy, I mean, the Iraqi had cauliflower ear. Like, you know, he obviously is a fighter, and he wanted to flex a little bit, and it was like, nah, dude, this ain't real, but if you want to take it that far, then I'll make sure I put you in your place, kind of a deal. Like, what they did to Jay was wrong. What Fifth Group did to Jay.
There you go. What Fifth Group did to Jay was wrong. Guy was a legit badass. Isn't that the kind of people that we want serving in special operations? People that know how to solve problems. And also, don't you want to deal with somebody that just says, listen, dude, for your own protection, you're going to be forcefully restrained. And if you're going to fight, then this is what the exercise is. Like, you get to choose your own experience in role-playing scenarios. If you guys don't know how Green Berets work, they do a lot of training in this space. They hire role players on the regular. There are hundreds and hundreds of them that are engaged in various different scenarios, starting all the way from the beginning in the Q course where they're doing like the Robin stage selection. You have to have people that know what their limits are. The goal is to make it realistic without actually getting anybody hurt. And if you want to take it to the next level, you're talking about a guy that kills people for a living. I had a friend of mine, he also a Green Beret, explained to me that there's a big difference between murderers and killers. Murderers are people that are amateurs. Killers do it professionally. This is what they do for a living. And so it's not an emotional experience. But if you step up the level of aggression, you are going to find an equal level of aggression coming back your way. That's what apparently this guy did. And if you guys don't know what cauliflower ear is, it's a good thing to look for, especially men. If this is not familiar to you, cauliflower ear is that kind of like swollen thing that you see. Go look at, like, you know, there's a lot of guys experienced, but go look at like Tim Kennedy's ears. What you find is that guys that have had their ears compressed from a lot of hand-to-hand fighting and holds, they end up developing this. Wrestlers get it, MMA fighters get it, BJJ guys get it, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. People that spend their time fighting physically hand-to-hand, if you see cauliflower ear, it's an indication that this person has spent some time and has training in that. If you are a guy who is a role player and you want to flex, and you want to find out whether or not the guy's combatives are up to snuff, you might end up a little bit in blood and getting hogtied, probably for your own safety. So for whatever it's worth, again, another New York Times piece dropped right in the middle of the day yesterday on a Monday. So that's prime news cycle trying to discredit somebody. I'll put this up on the Locals channel for you all. And I'll probably post it over on Twitter because I think we've done enough with the audio that it doesn't really matter. And look, at the end of the day, the voice is not going to give away who this person is. But I just want you all to know it's more lies. It's more dishonest statements. And it's more of this sort of like trying to shame masculinity. The thing that men are supposed to be is getting knocked around. I watched a video earlier today of guys, young men, young black men in California, ripping off purses and stealing from a Ross Dress for Less. But the least masculine thing you could do is steal from a retail store surrounded by a bunch of women who are trying to save money on some clothing for their kids or for themselves. And you're going to go in there and flip over a rack of purses and then steal them to go sell them. It's just not where I want our country to be. And I guess when you kind of think about it in that manner, it explains how some people just need to get the crap beat out of them. Like, there's a good reason for it. I've got a video of it somewhere. Let me see if this is it. That is not it. That is Ketanji Jackson Brown. This is a good video, I guess, of what happens when you screw around with the wrong guy. And you don't even know. Like, it could be a guy working at a convenience store. I saw this earlier today as well. This is the way men are supposed to behave. Don't act out of line, or men are supposed to put you back into their place. This dude decided to go and screw around in a convenience store. He got dragged out like trash. This is a fun thing to watch for a few of us.
Oh, it's up. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Oh. Oh.
Just laid out. Watch him drag him out, too. This is amazing.
Oh.
Throws him out on the concrete out by the gas pumps. Gives him another one to remember it. Just get out.
Oh, wait, what the fuck?
And then, what does he do? He goes straight back to work. That's the dude from behind the counter. The guy goes from behind the counter, slams the dude to the ground, and he's still out there trying to figure out what happened to him. Good. Don't go in and start making a mess in a business. Don't go in there. What you're doing is you put yourself in a position to be straightened out by other men. You have stepped into the physical arena. And this is a thing that women need to kind of be really cautious of. Women don't need to be in that physical arena. Got some funny kind of examples here. And I'm not calling Anderson Cooper a woman, even though we're going to play him in just a second. There used to be these separations. There's a reason why men don't hit women, are not supposed to, as we were raised. My neighbor and I were talking about this the other day. He said his son took a swing, just a slap, at his sister. And then he found out. And it caused like a real problem. It's like, I remember that too. I remember getting involved with my younger siblings, even my baby brother. My dad has straightened me out. This is what's supposed to happen. Men learn physical boundaries by running up against other men. Just like that Iraqi guy did. It's like, oh, you want to test yourself against a guy who's a professional killer? He's an 11 Bravo that goes overseas, and his whole deal every day that he wakes up is, how do I do violence to stay alive and protect the people that are back home? You want to get on the wrong side of that? I guess so. There's an opportunity. If you want to, what do they say? If you feel that frog, just leap. And he did. Let me talk about sort of the way that you can also protect yourself. If you're a woman, this is a really good idea. If you're a man, this is a good idea. My friends over at Shield Arms, also a company that is hiring Green Berets, because there's Green Berets designing their products. I'm friends with one of them as well. ShieldArms.com is the website. ShieldArms.com. If you guys saw it, I got into it with a guy yesterday about these magazines. They are fantastic. I don't know why anybody thinks this is their third generation. They're all steel. I think they're probably better than the factory Glock, simply because they'll hold 15 instead of 10 in the same size gun. If you guys want more rounds, which you do, if you want to be able to carry a higher density, more compact package, then you can go get yourself like a 43, a 43X, a 48, all coming from Glock. Check out Shield Arms if you want to go ahead and get the right magazine there so that you can carry more, just like I do. You're seeing on the screen right now. Real simple, flawless function. The promo code KYLE saves you 10% across the board. Again, KYLE saves you 10% across the board. I don't know if they're doing this with anybody else. Like, I don't know if they have other people that are getting their promo codes, but they reload fast. They're super slick. Again, shieldarms.com. They also make accessories for small Glocks. They make fantastic ARs and pistol caliber carbines. So check them out if you are in the market for a new firearm. If you're looking for something, and the neatest thing that they have coming up right now, which I think I can give away, is they've got a pistol caliber carbine. So like a 9mm AR that folds, and it'll also take those micro pistol rounds. So you can take like a 15 or a 20 round pistol round magazine, and you can carry it for your tiny little pistol. And if you had to go get a bigger gun, like let's say for an active shooter, like we're going to talk about in a second, you'd have the ability to jump in there and use both magazines for the same thing. So being able to load off the same belt, pretty cool stuff. Okay, our pivot over now is going to be talking about media lies and this falling from grace scenario, this women not being able to be women. And it starts from a story that we covered a little while ago. It starts going back to the Clarissa Ward. You guys remember her? She's the one that discovered the prisoner under the blanket, and we played it here, and it's clearly hanging out on social media. I had another resurgence. The story has come back into sharp focus. So let me first play Anderson Cooper, CNN anchor, talking about how Donald Trump is a liar and you got to fact check him. And then he goes into what a great, this is a side by side. You'll see why it matters in a second. He talks about how great the discovery of this poor prisoner by Clarissa Ward, their woman in the city of Damascus. Ready?
As good a job as Galen Collins did trying to fact check him, it is impossible to fact check fully because he lies so shamelessly. Now, many of you think CNN shouldn't have given him any platform to speak, and I understand the anger about that, giving him the audience, the time, I get that. But this is what I also get. The man you were so disturbed to see and hear from last night, that man is the front runner for the Republican nomination for president. Remarkable reporting from CNN's Clarissa Ward in Syria. This is incredible. She was at a prison. She made a stunning discovery, a man locked away in a forgotten cell. CNN went inside one of those newly liberated facilities, and our Clarissa Ward made an incredible discovery behind a cell door that was still locked, a forgotten prisoner.
After 3 months in a windowless cell, he can finally see the sky.
As good a job as Galen Collins did trying to fact.
Okay, so it goes back to the repeat. Okay, so what was the that video? I'm going to play the beginning of it. I want you to kind of feel a little taste. This is the drama. This is the staging that was set up. Here is Clarissa Ward in Damascus, December 11th, only a couple days ago, saving a man, discovering a man who was under a blanket that was left behind in this Air Force intelligence interrogation prison.
Deep in the belly of the regime's Air Force intelligence headquarters,
These are English letters.
we are hoping to find traces of Austin Tice, an American journalist held captive in Syria since 2012. It's one of many secret prisons across the city. This specific branch was tasked with surveillance, arrest, and killing of all regime critics.
These are all cleaned out.
We don't find any hints of Tice, but come across something extraordinary.
Okay, that extraordinary thing was a closed door that apparently a guy used an AK to blast open, which sounds incredibly dangerous in a concrete room with a steel door. I don't know that anybody would ever risk doing that. I have no idea. It sounds like my guess is they probably kicked the door down because what you hear is a bang and they had to turn their camera off. My guess is that they actually staged the idea that it was shot open because that sounds completely absurd. And even stupid fighters in foreign areas that don't understand much, they do understand what bullets do. And bullets tend to bounce around in areas that are made of concrete and steel. Not a great place to go ahead and take a pot shot into a door. Also, there's someone on the other side of the door that you're theoretically going to rescue, and you don't even know what the hell's going to happen. If you're not shooting like compressed like metal dust, like a breaching round from a shotgun, are you really going to launch that into a freaking steel door that is meant to like hold people back in a concrete cell? It's craziness. But they love doing this. I'm more focused, I guess, on the fact that they put this woman there. She's an actress. She's pretty. She has no business being in the Middle East like that, I don't think. And what is her life about? It's about doing silliness like this. Here she is acting. You'll notice that there's a man on the back side of her. He's hiding and laying down on the ground. I'm sure they were like, hey, dude, I need you to lay down. And he was like, okay, but I'm telling my wife what I want for dinner. And they're like, well, we have to pretend there's a rocket attack. So that's what you're about to see in this video. The funny thing is there are endless videos of the mainstream news media doing this kind of stuff. Lady doing a news report. It's been raining for days and she's in a canoe. And then somebody walks by and the water's ankle deep. So they literally put a canoe that they found and pretended like there was that much water. You've seen guys that are standing in a hurricane and they're going, it's gale force winds and they're blowing at us really hard right now. And then you see dudes walking in shorts behind them that are standing upright and going to go get a beer, and the wind is blowing the opposite direction from the way that he's resisting it. Here's some acting. This is CNN. This is the biggest stage there is, I would suggest to you. The mainstream media narrative in a war zone, and they're pretending. And Clarissa Ward is one of them, and then I've got the story that kind of backs this up because it's even funnier.
Clarissa is on the ground right now. Clarissa, tell us what's happening.
Stand by.
Hi, John. So forgive me, I have a slightly unelegant position, but we have just had a massive barrage of rockets coming in here, not too far from us. So we have had to take shelter here by the roadside. We're just about 5 minutes away. Gaza is in that direction. We can hear now a lot of jets in the sky. We could also hear the Iron Dome intercepting a number of those rockets as they were whizzing overhead and making impact in that direction. Not too far from here. We came to this location because this was ground zero for this entire operation of carnage. Hamas militants came on a pickup truck. This was the first place where they breached that border wall, and they basically drove down this strip.
All right, that's as much as I can listen. How many breaths did she take at the end of every complete sentence? You ever deal with people that are out of breath? I have a little bit of expertise in that. I was a paramedic. Dealing with people who are having difficulty breathing is the number one call outside of like man down. Difficulty breathing. Always the case. Major call. Difficulty breathing, but finishing every complete sentence. It reminds me of a time when my wife and I went for the one and only 5K run that we've ever done together, which is actually pretty funny. And we went and did this run. She did awesome, by the way, y'all. She paced out like a professional within about 10 seconds of her pace, every single quarter mile for the entire 5K. Badass, straight up. It wasn't fast, but it was perfectly timed. And she was yelling at me at one point in the middle of it. She was giving me like the business. She was telling me how mad she was about what was going on. And she was like, I can't breathe. There's no air. And I'm like, I know there's air because you're yelling at me. That's how I know. And I was just chilling. That is fake breathing. That is acting. Give that woman something. A Tony Award, maybe. She doesn't deserve like an actual obvious or capable actress award, but give her something for Broadway because it's staged. It's staged and it feels like a stage. All of you who are listening heard it. It was very bad. And the best is, like I said, there's a dude in the background. He's like laying there and he's just telling his wife, he's like, no, like I hate it when you cook the couscous. I'd like the rice. I'd like the steamed rice. The couscous is not my favorite. Like whatever he's saying. That's going on. And she's laying there. Where's her helmet? She's got a flak jacket on, which by the way is not even plates. It's just soft armor. Where's the helmet? Well, that would really mess up her nice looking hair. And there's plenty of evidence of her actually staging this. There's other background pictures. The reason I bring it up is because of this hilariousness. The freed prisoner that we just saw the opening video of, that Anderson Cooper was talking about, an amazing discovery, an amazing moment of discovery. Freed prisoner who said he was the victim of the Assad regime was actually part of the Assad regime. He was an intelligence officer that the locals knew personally, and they knew that he was a scumbag. And CNN had to report this. This is actually reporting from CNN that their reporter, who had the hand holding and all the weird stuff, is exposed to be like they rescued a tyrant. How much funnier and better is it than that? The man who was filmed by CNN, released by rebels from the Damascus jail, is a former intelligence officer within the deposed Syrian regime. According to the local residents, he's not an ordinary citizen who'd just been imprisoned, as he claimed. He lied. He told, this is the other crazy thing. Imagine if you were not a skeptic. He told chief international correspondent Clarissa Ward and her team that his name was Adel Gerbal. But in reality, his name was Salama Mohammed Salaman. Oh, that's not even close to Abdel Gerbal. He claimed he'd been in the cell for 3 months, saying it was the third cell. People said that he actually wasn't in there that long. The guard blew the lock off with a gun, allegedly, if you believe that stupidity. And the man was found alone in the cell under a blanket, which also looked staged because he looked awfully freaking clean. It's really silly, and it's really sad. And it kind of leads me into this place where if you don't have a skeptical mind, if you are not constantly asking the question, like, is this legit, then you're going to get conned. And the thing that has happened in this current society, the reason why we've had this fall from grace or a failing of grace, feminine grace, is that women are now in a place where they are competing with men in a place that they are inequipped. Like, men would not roll into that room and immediately assume that guy's a friendly. Have you ever seen what a hostage rescue looks like? Hostages are assumed to be hostile until proven otherwise. It's kind of like a thing that I've done some training in. You go in and you assume that that person is a problem. You treat them as such until proven otherwise. There's got to be all kinds of validation. Even if you had a downed U.S. service member in U.S. garb, let's say a U.S. flight suit with a U.S. helmet and flags and so on, and you were looking for a downed pilot behind enemy lines, and you encountered that as a rescue team, you would handcuff that person, you would search them, and you would interrogate that person as though they were trying to screw up and kill you. Like they were trying to lie to you. And she went and held hands with this guy and gave him water and wanted to give him hugs and talk to him like this. Because women do that, because that's the magic of women. That's the superpower that women have. Compassion, empathy, assuming the best. Men do the opposite, because when you screw up in the world of men, you either get knocked out and dragged out of the convenience store, or you're dead if you're in a war zone like that. And this sort of confusion has taken it all the way down to like the lowest level of young women. Teens. Look at where we're at right now. People are shocked. There's a young gal who's now dead, Natalie Rupnow, who went by the name Samantha, which is also really weird. And I don't know why they're including that in the story, but they did. The story comes from The Times, which is the British publication. The killing of 2 people. So we were originally hearing reporting that it was 5. The killing of 2 people. And I think also the attacker is not included in that too, so 3, is unusual because of the gender of the attacker. No, not the gender, the sex of the person. It was a young lady. It was a young girl, 14 years old, 15 years old, 15 now, who apparently had access to a handgun, which is terrible. I'm just going to read a little bit about this story. If you don't know the story, it happened in Madison, Wisconsin at a private Christian school called Abundant Life Christian. You can see on the screen right there. Elementary and high school since 1978, so not a new school. She was 15. She killed a fellow teenage pupil and a teacher, and then committed suicide. We've seen some writings. We'll have to kind of vet this out. I don't like to report on things that are supposedly manifestos right off the bat because we don't really know, but Andy knows, usually got pretty good reporting, and he says that the statement is something to the effect of, she could have just committed a suicide and she thought about killing herself, but who wants to be another boring old suicide? I'm going to go kill other people. That is not a feminine thought. That is not the way that people think and have not historically. There is a pretty good evidence of this. If you go back and look at the numbers, I went to Statista, just a website that keeps track of this. These are mass shootings. The definition is real sketchy here, but let's just look at as a percentage and not by the hard numbers. They claim there were 145 mass shootings carried out by men and only 4 by women, and then 2 of them were carried out by male and female. Those were terrorist attacks. You guys may be familiar with what happened in San Bernardino, and none where they didn't know the gender. It turns out we can always tell the gender of a mass shooter because you could just look at their body and know what their story is. 145 to 4. This is like the prosecution ratio of the DOJ going after Christians that are praying outside of abortion clinics and the people that are destroying churches. It's really lopsided, isn't it? You see the graph on the screen right there? It's not even close. If you did 10x, you'd be at 40. If you did 20x, you'd be at 80. You're talking like 300+%, 320% maybe, something like that. 145 to 4 men do mass shootings. It is not the purview of women. It's not the range of women. And so this kind of thing where you see, like when you see ambulances rolling to a school, when you hear those sirens and it's because a young girl decided to go shoot up a school, something is drastically wrong. And it's the same thing that's wrong with this lady going out there and busting open a prison cell in Damascus in the middle of a freaking uprising. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to us because we've deprioritized it. And I found something that is probably not the most normal way of looking at this. I wanted to show you also another thing about mass shootings here. Look at this. There's been a big spike of late. What happened in 2017? Donald Trump got into office. I don't know why that was where the spike was, but it was significantly higher by orders of magnitude. Those are the number of fatalities that happened in 2017. It's still not that many deaths. There's not that many people die in mass shootings. Since 1982, the number is under 1,200 that they were reporting on this particular website. Now, they have a narrow parameter of like 3+ people killed, including, the shooter makes it 4, that kind of deal. These are fatalities and injuries, but there was a big spike when people lost their mind, when people lose their ability to like deal with reality. And I do think the thing that Anderson Cooper was talking about, trying to debunk Donald Trump's lies in real time, in the meantime, they are purveying their own lies. Like when people are lied to, they don't have like that comfort in what is happening around them. It's still a very small percentage of death in this country, statistically speaking, but it's an important one. And when they can't trust in institutions, and when you can't even trust the chief of police to say things that are so simple that nobody should be doubting it, shouldn't the chief of police be able to talk about the gender, the sex of the person who just got involved in a shooting? You know it was a young girl. You're going to now try to honor the pronouns of this person? This is the weirdest single, and this is the reason why men have entered a space that doesn't belong to them. This man is doing a feminine thing. He is trying to make the dead girl feel better about something that is in her head that is no longer functioning. Just listen to the language here because it's crazy. This is in Wisconsin of all places, which is somewhere I used to go when I was a kid. It's like to go fishing and people like chop things up with chainsaws and made chainsaw sculptures where I used to go. This is not that far away. This is Madison. Here's the chief of Madison PD talking about they don't know whether she was transgender, but they're going to respect her possible pronouns.
Chief, there's been a lot of misinformation online, including from prominent Moms for Liberty activists in Wisconsin, claiming that the shooter was transgender, which is a reaction that we see across the country in wake of mass shootings, to claim that trans people are dangerous. Can you respond to that directly in regards to this?
Yeah, I don't know whether Natalie was transgender or not. And quite frankly, I don't think that's even important. I don't think that's important at all. I don't think that whatever happened today has anything to do with how she or he or they may have wanted to identify. And I wish people would kind of leave their own personal biases out of this. We have people who showed up to work today to help kids be better, who are not going home. And we have lost members of our community who are children, including the shooter. So whether or not they were transgender is something that may come out later. But for what we're doing right now, today, literally 8 hours after a mass shooting in a school in Madison, it is of no consequence at this time.
If it's of no consequence at this time, why in the actual hell are you talking like that? Who looks at a young girl and says he was, she was, they were? That is a mental illness on behalf of the chief. That is a failure to recognize femininity. And that kind of crap that is actually at the top of law enforcement in Madison, Wisconsin, is the reason why you end up with a young girl who decided that shooting is my way out. Historically, this is not the way that women have dealt with problems. This entry into violent spaces in the way that men have dealt with violence, it's not well suited. It might be the best defense against a violent man. If you're a woman, I'm not saying you shouldn't own a gun. I think you should. I think you should train. You should respect the tool and the capability of it. But entering into the space of violence to what? Settle your disputes? It's not normal. Maybe it has something to do with female empowerment. Maybe it has something to do with people that can't tell you what a woman is. Some of us actually know. And I'm going to give you a final story here. But before we go to the final story, which I think is the ultimate sadness in 2024, and I mean that. Like when I read it, it made me sad to think about what's going on. Let's also talk about the things that are going on at the highest level of law enforcement and what should be the apex of human decision-making, our Supreme Court. It should be the fairest, most intelligent and capable human beings. This is Ketanji Jackson Brown. She made it to Broadway, y'all. I'm not even making this up. If you don't know this, she's in a Broadway musical called Romeo and Juliet that stars a tranny who's trying to, because the story of Romeo and Juliet is really about gender discovery, isn't it? It's trying to discover not whether or not Romeo and Juliet are young star-crossed lovers who have families that don't get along and they try to figure it out and they both die. Not dissimilar from what we're talking about at that school. By the way, how do they die? Poison and knife, right? No. This is a story of a transgender person that's trying to figure out what their gender is as they support Juliet, because Juliet's best friend May is actually a tranny. That's the story. And it got Ketanji Jackson Brown off the bench so she could say some of the many words that she likes to say. Hold on, before we do that, let me show the many words. This is her in 2024. Remarks by the Supreme Court justices. Words spoken by each justice in their first 8 arguments. You'll notice the smartest member of the court spoke 96 words. That's Clarence Thomas. The dumbest member of the court spoke 11,300 words. It looks like Amy Coney Barrett has made some arguments that have surpassed, but it used to be that Sotomayor was the number 2. And as far as I could tell, there actually may be a pretty good case that this is actually eclipsed it, because I've seen bigger numbers. These are only in the first 8. By the time we got to the end of the term, I'm fairly confident Ketanji Jackson Brown doubled those numbers, and Sotomayor was in the 8,000s or 9,000s, and Amy Coney Barrett was much lower. The dumbest people speak the most, it turns out, because they aren't able to communicate it well. Here she is being dumber, not knowing what a woman is, but screaming about female empowerment, nausea, gag bags, whatever you need to do before you throw up. Here we go.
Female empowerment. Sick. Welcome to the first day of rehearsal. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This has been a dream of mine.
Her dream, I'm going to turn the music down for a second. Her dream was to be on Broadway. I thought she was a judge. I thought these are failed theater kids. When you get into politics, what are you? You're doing show business for ugly people. She's a ugly midget woman on stage looking ridiculous, getting, pranced around and preened by people, even though she says she can't even tell you what a woman is. Here she is. Look at this. She's on stage.
Tonight, we have a very special guest.
And listen to this reception.
Supreme Court Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson!
Oh my God, we're doing it. All right, that's nauseating. And I did want to show you the transgender person that is doing this thing. Here we go. This is Justin David Sullivan, who dresses like a female because we are confusing our children, and specifically we are confusing young women about roles and what they should be doing and how to handle it. This is not a thing that a sane or rational society would encourage.
Female empowerment. Sick! I like it too. I think what I like about it is that I am having a very strongly negative reaction to it. Like I hate it. Which makes me think it must be brilliant.
Doesn't that say a lot?
Got this feeling in my body.
Can't stop the feeling.
Got this feeling in my body. I can't
There
stop
she
the
is. Still dancing. We'll get the tranny on here in a second. Guaranteed.
To Broadway.
She made it to Broadway. Here it comes. That's a man, a young man, dressed up like a girl, wearing flowers in his hair.
Hi, I'm Justin David Sullivan. I use the pronouns he, she, and they, and I play Juliet's best friend, May. May goes on a journey of self-discovery, finds love, and explores their gender identity.
I am fiercely proud that there are characters in this show.
I am fiercely disgusted that there are, look, the arts has always been full of people who are homosexual, so be it. That's not a big deal. Particularly this type of art. We don't need he, she, and they pronouns from a single individual. This is what that pushes down. When the Supreme Court Justice, when the chief of police in Madison, Wisconsin, which is probably the most virile type of job you can have, law enforcement in a large city needs to be run by people who understand that violence has to happen in order to keep the evil crap that people want to do away from women and children. That's it. That's its only purpose. Men have to be on your own at this point. Otherwise, you're going to get ambulances rolling. Otherwise, you're going to get people rolling out there looking to do what? Respond. Yes, for those of you who wondered if there was an ambulance in the background, there was. You're going to get people responding like this. More men who have to go stop bullet wounds from bleeding out on the ground. It's truly sad, and it's really disgusting. And we've done this to them. Let me give you the reason why I think this is going on, or this is sort of the final symptom of it. Are you ready? I saw this. It was tweeted out by a couple of folks that I follow on socials. I went and read the article, which apparently they did not. This is coming from the New York Post. This is a very New York article. The new non-negotiable thing men are asking for before getting serious with a woman. What am I showing here? I am showing the author of the article. Her name is Jana Hawkins. She's the one with the boobs hanging out. The other one is the girl that went on a shooting spree. She's 14. Imagine if this is the kind of person that is being paraded out there as an option. Jana is 39 years old. She's very pretty by all accounts. She's got a lot of makeup on. She dresses in a way that's very immodest for my taste. But she's not unattractive. She's 39. She's single. And she described her 2024 dating situation as a series of situationships, which I guess is very clever. She talks about meeting her friend for martinis in the middle of the day. And she talks about the question that one of her friends got from the guy that she was dating, of which she was dating many guys, which is the opposite of the way things were designed to work out, at least in Western society. And that question was, will you take an STD test? Will you take a test and make sure that you're clean so that we can start having sex with no condom? That's the actual ask. And that is the sign of commitment in New York City, per the New York Post. A very tabloidish type job, but they have good news in there sometimes. That's a very New York moment to realize that the way that you tell someone that you want to commit to them is that you want to raw dog them with no marriage in place. And you want to make sure that they have an STD test so that you're both clean. And by the way, the friend said no, not ready for that commitment yet. I have another guy that I'm banging on the side, and that's also really important to me. So I need to keep my options open. At 39, your options are closing dramatically. And many of you guys know this. This woman at 39 is lots of cleavage and lots of makeup and running around having martinis with her friends. In 20 years, she's dying alone with her freaking cat that eats her face. I don't mean to say that mean. I'm reading something here from the comment section in the New York Post, which I think says it so clearly. It comes from a woman, by the way. It doesn't come from me. Someone who put none ya business as the name. The world was destroyed biblically for far less. I don't mean to get preachy, but here it is. The woman says, I'm 63 years old. I'm a woman. And this is one of the saddest things that I've ever read. I avow that. We women were the gatekeepers of morality, and men had to work really hard to get us to say yes to a date. We were special. And all of this is really sad. Quote unquote, modern dating has made women five and dime with change coming back. It has cheapened women for what women are. And that's where we're at right now. And that's how you end up with a poor gal at 15 years old thinking that her answer to her sadness is not talking to somebody, and not even, in the worst case scenario, taking her own life. It's taking other people's lives that had nothing to do with it, because she couldn't solve her own problem, because she's entered into the masculine world of violence, which makes me so sad for our kids. It really does. But I can trace it back to lies being told for a long time. Even Eric Adams is starting to realize that we're radicalizing our kids. We're about to go to the American Radicals podcast in just a second. Let me just show you.
Our children are being country that put them where they are. This person had all that one wants to have, but he hated everything to the point of shooting someone. And we better deal with the radicalization of our young people and of shooting someone. And we better deal with the radicalization of our young people. And, you know, people could, you know, they could complain that I'm saying it, but I'm seeing it. I'm seeing our bench is hating the team. And we better start acknowledging and focusing on that. And so having dance parties, celebrating the death of someone, I don't support.
Sense. We got to stop radicalizing our kids. We got to knock this right now. Let's go to a little palate cleanse. Americans are the best as long as we go ahead and encourage ourselves.
God-fearing, fair, least discriminatory people on the planet. And they want to know that if you're waking up and thinking about harming American citizens, or if American citizens are taken hostage and kept in dungeons, or if you're a foreign power sending fentanyl, you and your friends and your cousins and your bank account and your mistress and whoever was involved. And, you know, when Americans are spending $1 trillion on defense, what I want and what I think my peers want is, why are these people keeping our citizens hostage, torturing our people, attacking our allies, maligning us in what was once called the United Nations? Those people need to be scared.
Period. Violence has a place. It's not the answer, but it's an option. And it should be an option if we're being serious about it. That's what I got for today, folks. I hope that you guys have a great Tuesday. Wish you guys all of the best on this day. Go out there and be men there and hug your kids. God bless all of you. Look forward to seeing you again tomorrow for our Wednesday.
Kyle Seraphin Show streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.